Hi, this is Taryn Grome, editor of Pharma Voice. We met with numerous inspirational thought leaders at this year's DIA annual conference as part of our Editors Take video series. I hope you enjoy this discussion.
In this episode, Taryn meets with Kareem Damji, SVP, Product Management and Marketing, Saama Technologies.
Good afternoon and welcome to DIA 2018 here in Boston.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We love this particular venue. I think it's a great opportunity for small organizations such as ourselves to meet potential prospects and, more importantly, also future partners that we can build solutions to come to market with.
Wonderful. And thank you for joining us for our Editors Take video program.
It's my pleasure.
Let's get started. What are the most exciting trends in life sciences that will influence future clinical trial solutions?
Great question. I think there are lots of trends out there that are impacting. I think it's going to impact the general life science industry. But the ones that I think are near and dear to me, obviously, patient centricity is going to be king in the context of so many different technologies are getting developed to directly engage patients as part of how to potentially participate in clinical trials. I'll give you an example later on, such as using health bots or chatbots, which are governed by artificial intelligence. There are new tools of how they can do outreach to patients, so that's going to be important. Robotic process automation is going to dramatically change the way pharma actually conducts business and how pharma employees are driving productivity. It's going to dramatically change the industry in that context. I think cloud-based solutions are a reality. Other industries have really embraced it. I know because of the regulation, pharma has been slightly slow to adopt those, but though no longer can it be an afterthought, it has to be a forethought in anybody's strategy in terms of looking at cloud-based validated solutions. And naturally, with the advent of AI, the promise of AI is quite large in terms of what it's going to do. People are touting that AI is the last possible human invention, but I think since it is a human invention, we can certainly control its usability. So AI will dramatically change how we interact with data assets, how we do drug development, and more importantly, how we drive new experiences entirely in terms of communication.
I think those are wonderful insights, and I'd like to probe in a little bit deeper in terms of what is the sponsor's response going to be to this technology push? As we know, the pharma has been slow to adopt.
Correct.
So how can companies like yours help guide them in the right direction? Naturally.
And when we engage with sponsors, we take a different approach. We take an approach of what are the outcomes you're trying to drive, right? Instead of being AI illusionists, we're very AI pragmatists, right? So that's the important distinction, because you don't want to promise that AI is going to be, solving the panacea to all your ills. You want to make sure that you're using it to drive real operational efficiencies. They can bring, impact bottom line, top line, and more importantly, bring impacting therapies to market. So our engagement process is very much governed around what are you trying to achieve? Let's figure out the right technology assets that I can actually achieve those in 3 months, 6 months, 18 months. Very practical approach to driving outcomes for pharma. So I think that's an important engagement model.
I couldn't agree with you more. So let's talk a little bit more about how AI and natural language understanding can impact the future of drug development.
Certainly. There are multiple modalities of it. Naturally, where you want to look at AI not just necessarily in aspects of looking at what happens to the data post-processing, but you can use AI to actually process the data to get it in a cleansed format, right? So it's the pre-processing aspect of it is pretty important. So you can do some interesting profiling type of activities for the data to get it. Unstructured information. We know that pharma has a big data problem. There's no doubt about it, right? There's a surge of data coming in. But we honestly believe that it's got a bigger text problem. Given the fact that there's so much information in biomedical text out there, physician notes, medical notes, in EDC systems, that has not been processed using unstructured information. So natural language understanding, which is a subset of natural language processing, it uses contextual information to actually draw meaning from textual information, right? So that's going to be imperative to use unstructured, put it into structured, and do further analysis. An example of that would be looking for patients, right? There's so much information in physician notes that you can't get from traditional EHR structured information. Because as we know, EHR systems were designed to process claims, not necessarily clinical data. So there's a tremendous amount of information stored in physician notes, which NLU can leverage to process.
It's fascinating. And how will validated cloud solutions inform and optimize the clinical journey?
Great. Traditionally what pharma have done is they've created this monolithic data warehouses, and data has always been in silos. And they've been regulated to validate those siloed data warehouses. What's happening is there's a trend, or rather the regulation says that it needs to be validated from an intent-based perspective, right? So given the fact that you need to break down those silos to take advantage of getting better insights into drug development, you need to start looking at how to do validation on intent of use. So if you're using it for regulatory purposes, approval purposes, naturally you want to make sure it's validated because you want to manage the chain of custody of the data, so that's important. But intent-based use and use case type of validation will be more critical, and you can achieve that at a greater speed if you're actually leveraging cloud-based technologies than traditional in-house, data type of factories.
It's exciting stuff. And so finally, how will pharma and biotech directly benefit from validated cloud-based solutions? What's in it for them?
Speed of business, really. It is to drive efficiency, productivity. It's really core versus context, right? You want to focus on core, which is drug development and innovation. Context is all about managing complex data assets, right? So taking advantage of technologies that have been developed by Valley companies for a very long time in other industries, it's an opportunity to pharma to say, how do we catapult, our data paradigms, if you will, and imperatives, and leverage those technologies so we can focus on our core competencies versus our contextual competencies.
I can't thank you enough for sharing these tremendous insights with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and we really appreciate the opportunity.
For more information on this topic, visit our Thought Leaders website.
For more Editors Take videos from the DIA Annual Conference, visit www.pharmavoice.com. Thanks for joining us.